Hey everybody, what's up? Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Explorer here for another quick video. I'm actually going to shoot a series of videos here before we leave for vacation, so that way there's still content coming out while I'm on vacation, but I don't have to worry about trying to shoot videos while I'm on the road, etc., etc. So if I'm wearing the same shirt, it's not gross. But let's get into this. Today I'm going to show you my Prank Kids list. I think it's a really strong deck. I based it largely off Pack's Prank Kids list that he recently, I forget what event it was, but he put some YouTube videos up. And I think that is like the most streamlined Prank Kids deck. I did throw in a little bit of a different tech, so we can go over that and go over what my build looks like. This is probably a tier 1 deck right now, so make sure you check it out at a minimum, know how it works, so that way you're ready to play against it if you're not playing it. But let me show you what cards you can expect to be seeing in some of these decks, or what cards you should be playing in some of these decks. Alrighties, ladies and gentlemen, we will now start going over the Prank Kids deck real quick here. I'll start with the Prank Kids core that I play. Start with 3 Lampsies, 3 Fansies, 3 Dropsies, and 2 Roxies. The reason you only play 2 Roxies is because its effect, which it is the one where you can banish a card from your hand and draw a card, and special 1 Prank Kids monster from your hand or deck. It's not quite as good as the other ones, and it's more easily hand trapped because it involves drawing a card. So, you just play that at 2 because you still want the names and etc, etc, but it's not one of your primary combo starters. You'd rather draw into the other 3 names first. They're more of your 1 card combo starters. On top of the Prank Kids list, we also played 2 Pandemonium. You'll see why I only played 2. If you have 3 and you don't want to play the tech that I'll show you guys later, feel free to play 3 Pandemonium. I don't think that's a mistake. That's what Pack actually plays. But I tech in a different fusion card here, which you'll see in a minute. And on top of that, I only have 2 Pandemonium. So that's where we're at with that. 2 Pranks. I think that's pretty standard. And then 3 Place. I know Place is kind of one of the more expensive cards, being the secret rare of the set. You know, if you want, what you could do is you could play Terraforming and play 2 instead. You could play... there are other cards you can play. I know there are a couple decks I've seen that only play 1 Place. If you really can't afford to play a single Place, then you should probably just be buying structure decks. This deck is already so cheap. Paying the money for Place in Doodle Doo and Battle Butler isn't that big of a deal. I think I got this whole deck minus the hand traps because I got them separately, but I got the whole deck core, including the extra deck, for under $150. So that's actually really good. And then the hand traps, I always just recommend buying a playset or 2, depending on, you know, what you stumble upon, of all of the main hand traps, and then just switching them between whatever decks you build, so that way you don't have to have a set of hand traps for every single deck, because that can get expensive. Anyway, so that's the main Prank Kid core. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. I think it's pretty standard. We can go over now some of the other general spells and traps that I play in the deck. First, 3 Pot of Desires. You don't want to play Extravagance because you want your extra deck. And the way this deck functions is, since there's a 3 of everything, that's part of the reason you play 3 Place actually. Since there's 3 of everything almost, you can spare the 10 banish, and then you know, that'll really get your play started. And you really only need this when you don't draw into a kid off the first hand, which is unlikely to begin with anyway, especially a kid or place, because place also searches. So that being said, this is Desires is, you know, helpful when you're in a pinch, but you're not always going to be leaning on it for draw power. You can also, like, if you're drawing well and you don't think you need it in there, you can always take it out. I actually play a 43 card list. Again, very similar to Pack's list. I was thinking about cutting it to 40, but I think the cards that I play in the list make it so it's such an easy engine to get into that the extra 3 cards don't make it hard to draw what you need. And the extra 3 cards you play, you'll see coming up here, are very helpful, especially against the current meta. So if you want to take these out, you can take them out. If you want to play them, kind of what my line of thinking is, I play them, and then depending on what I need to side into games 2 and 3, I can take out 1 or 2 of the Pot of Desires, as well as some other cards, depending on what of the traps are working or not working. But I think that really helps with your draw power. The last thing I'll say for spells for now, I'll come back to the last thing because it's a little bit of discussion, is Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion gets you into Rocket Ride and Weather Washer. So that's just a nice, you know, if you're stuck or if you need the effects of those, or you, like if you're in a pinch and you can Instant Fusion, use Rocket Ride to, and then link Rocket Ride away or something along those lines. Or, you know, Rocket Ride effect, Tribute Rocket Ride. I believe you get the special summon off of Rocket Ride at the end. You can tribute this card, then target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters of the same name in your graveyard, special summon them. Yeah, so you can Instant Fusion Rocket Ride, Tribute Rocket Ride, get 2 names on board from the graveyard. So that's a nice little extender, as well as you know, you could get Rocket Ride or Weather Washer out and just leave them on board for damage or something. It's a nice little tech in there. And it's just 1 card, so you most of the time won't even see it, but when it comes up, it's helpful. Now, these are kind of hard hitters, and this is kind of where we get into the 43 card list discussion. Is I played 3 There Can Be Only One and 3 Evenly Match. So the thing with There Can Be Only One and Evenly Matched is they're super high impact. With a deck like this, if you you know, you resolve Battle Butler on your opponent's turn, wipe their board, and then on your next turn you set Evenly Matched and you can only get 1 monster out or something, you can always keep your opponent from overwhelming you with monsters. Also, if they were to like stop your Battle Butler, or if you were to tribute something off during your opponent's turn, or at the end of their battle phase, they wipe out all your monsters, something along, you know what? Evenly Matched is just strong. And it's essentially, if you end up with no monsters, you can wipe your opponent's entire board. And usually it's pretty hard for them to stop. And this is really strong against you know, these big combo decks that build up these big boards too, because Prank Kids doesn't play that many onboard monsters. Usually it's kind of like build up to something and then use that thing either to tribute it or to board wipe or whatever, and then revive that thing later when you need it. So you don't always have a bunch of monsters on board, even though it's a little bit of a combo deck. So Evenly Matched is good that way. There Can Be Only One is good because even just within your Prank Kid engine, you can do the whole combo with never having 2 of the same attributes on board, so 2 of the same types, because they're all 4 different types and different attributes. So it doesn't stop you from playing your deck and playing through your combos, but it can quite often stop your opponent, especially you know, Dragon Link plays almost all darks and a couple of lights, and what's another one? Shaddoll Invoked plays darks and lights. in a couple Earths. And these are the types of cards you should be playing when your deck can facilitate them, and Prank Kids facilitates them well. And that's why, we get to 40 cards, but we still want to play 3 evenly matched. Or we get to 40 cards and we still want to play 3. There can be only 1. Goodness, excuse me. And there's no reason not to play them. Your Prank Kid engine is so efficient and so consistent. There's no reason to not play 43 cards. So we do. And those are the 3 extra cards are either evenly matched or there can be only 1. The 6 cards combined push you over to 43. But like I said, I would rather have 3 evenly matched in there and slightly lower my odds of drawing into a kid on my first draw. But that being said, we also have Pot of Desires as a 3 of in there also. So as far as draw power, it's still there. As far as consistency, it's still there. And just overwhelming power of the deck is still there. Now, the tech I was kind of alluding to that I was that I hadn't quite gotten into yet, that Pack doesn't play, that I've seen some Prank Kids players play that I like so far, is Thunder Dragon Fusion. Now, for those of you who don't know what Thunder Dragon Fusion does, it reads Fusion Summon 1 Thunder Fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among your cards on the field, in your graveyard, and or your face-up banished card. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Thunder monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Thunder Dragon Fusion once per turn. Now this seems a little irrelevant when you first look at it, but you have to remember that Fansies is Thunder type monster, and Battle Butler is a Thunder type monster. So not only can you pull Fansies out of the deck on banishing this card after you use it, but you can also fusion summon Battle Butler by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it from into the deck from the field and your graveyard. And that's pretty strong considering you can you can essentially dump a bunch of Prank Kid monsters into the graveyard while you're Link summoning, and then Thunder Dragon Fusion into Battle and Butler, shuffle those cards back into the deck, and then they're available in the deck for your follow-up plays. So not only is it a great card to get to one of your big boss monsters, but it's also a great card to establish your follow-on plays. On top of that, and this will come up when we get to the extra deck, but I also play a copy of Anaconda. And Anaconda can send 1 fusion or polymerization. Pandemonium doesn't say fusion or polymerization in the title, so Anaconda can't send Pandemonium. So typically, even though there's a fusion element to this deck, Anaconda doesn't really help you. But playing Thunder Dragon Fusion, if you get stuck, or a great way to play around interruptions in this deck, because it's pretty easy to get 2 cards out even around interruptions with this deck. So if you get interrupted and you can't extend very much farther, you get 2 cards out, you go into Anaconda, send Thunder Dragon Fusion, and then you can excuse me. Then you can Thunder Dragon Fusion into Battle Butler if you have the cards in your graveyard, which, like, if your opponent interrupts you, especially later in your plays, to stall you out while you're comboing, like, the odds of you having those cards in the graveyard are actually pretty good. Obviously not perfect, but at least it's searchable using a toolbox card like Anaconda, which means that, you know, if you don't draw into Pandemonium, which Pandemonium is searchable through the engine because it's an engine card, so, like, Pandemonium's also searchable, but it, I forget what card searches it. Might be Place. Or Pranks. Let me know in the comments. I always forget these things. I haven't played in like a week or something, and then what does what escapes me a little bit here and there. Read your cards. Anyway, The nice thing about Thunder Dragon Fusion is that it not only acts as your fusion, but it's also searchable through an extra deck card that you always have access to, and it can recycle cards back to your deck from the graveyard once it goes to the graveyard. So just keep that in mind. That's a tech I like. If you want to play more Pandemoniums, which is totally viable, especially because, like I said, they're searchable within the engine, play 3 Pandemonium and no Thunder Dragon Fusion. You don't need 4 fusion cards, and if you're playing Pandemonium, it's at least searchable and stuff too, so you don't need the Anaconda either. But that's just my opinion. This is just a fun tech that I've enjoyed playing. I've enjoyed playing Anaconda to fusion something other than Dragoon. It just feels so nice to resolve Anaconda and not summon Dragoon. I don't know what about it, just feels almost sneaky. I do that a lot in my Cyber Dragon deck too. Send Overload and go into Chimera attack. But anyway, so as far as the main deck goes, the nice thing about this engine, about Prank Kids, is that the engine itself is very small. You can already see that we're playing, evenly matched, and there can be only one. And Pot of Desires. On top of that, I play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 hand traps. So again, we're playing a 43 card deck. So you could take out 3 hand traps if you really wanted to, if you just wanted to play a handful. But I think that would be silly, because especially for the current meta, hand traps are just so strong against a lot of decks. You want to get, in a lot of cases, you want to get 2 forms of interruptions in your opening hand. And the best way to do that is play at least 14 hand traps on top of the 6 high impact traps that we also play. So I'll show you what I'm playing here, just to give you an idea of some of the stuff I think is good against the current meta. We're going to play 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma, and of course the 1 driver. We're also going to play 1 Prankratops. I can't talk. Prankratops. Thank you. There we go. Pretty high impact hand trap. It's nice to get a 2600 attack body out there in the form of a hand trap as well. Of course, we play 3 Ash Blossom because it hits almost everything. If you're not playing Ash Blossom, I can kind of understand, because it's not super high impact. It just stops. It doesn't destroy. It doesn't end turns a lot of times, but the amount of things it hits, if you use it well, it can end turns. So I think you almost have to play it in almost every deck right now. 3 Droll Lockbird. Droll Lockbird does end turns. So as far as high impact hand traps go, Droll Lockbird has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, and it's coming back now. But it's so nice to just pop off a Droll Lockbird, and then your opponent can't add cards from their main deck to their hand. Let's think about what decks do that. Invoked, Shaddoll, Dino, Dragon. What decks are those again? Oh yeah, the other top tier 1 decks. So if you're a tier 1 deck and you're playing against other tier 1 decks, and you can stop the other player's turn, why wouldn't you? And the nice thing about Prank Kids is you're not stopping your turn, because most of them don't add cards to hand. They special summon from the deck. So Droll Lockbird doesn't stop your plays that way. You're able to continue playing just how you normally would. And the last hand trap I play is 3 Lancia. Dinosaur's back on the rise. The Chaos Engine in Dragon Lake needs to banish. Just all kinds of things rely on banishing right now. Virtual World still out there doing things, relies on banishing. yeah, you get the point. A lot of decks rely on banishing to get certain effects, and Lancea can be a turn stopper depending on the deck. Obviously, there are decks that don't banish that can play right around Lancea no problem, and for that's why we have a side deck, right? So if you're playing against, you know, Cyber Dragons or something, and you don't need to banish that much, I would side out Lancea and side into something else, like Ghost Spell. But that being said, I think this is the best lineup for the current meta. It's very similar to Pack's list. If you want some more details about plays or combos or anything, I would recommend checking out Pack. He plays this deck a lot, so he's probably a better resource than me as far as how to play it very well. He's also just a super big brain player and deck builder. If you're not following his channel, you should be. But speaking of which, if you like the deck so far, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and it lets me know that I'm doing things that help you guys out, as well as you know, making good videos and things like that. So now with the extra deck, there's a couple things that I could possibly change that I wouldn't be that I would consider changing, which we'll go over once I get there. So first, starting out, I played 2 Meow Meow, 1 Bow Wow Bark, and 3 Doodle Doo as my 1 and 2 Link 1 and 2 Prank Kids monsters. Now I would like the third Meow Meow, but I just have, like, I don't have it. So later on, you know, there are other extra deck monsters. I'll tell you which ones can come out, but there are other extra deck monsters you can play for a second Bow Wow Bark and a third Meow Meow that could help with you know, the grind game later on. You know, you get stuck after your first one. This deck doesn't have a huge OTK potential, but here and there. But for later, for that grind game, having the third Meow Meow and the second Bow Wow Bark can help a lot. So I'll show you what cards can come out for those here in a minute. The last Prank Kid Link monster is a Ripperorn Roaster. Just such fun art. I don't know if you guys like this art as much as I do, but I just think the cards are so much fun. The little cartoon characters and the little guys doing their crazy Prank Kids antics. Last but not least is the Prank Kids fusion monsters. We have Rocket Ride, Weather Washer, and Battle Butler. Obviously, Battle Butler is one of the key cards in the deck. Being able to essentially Regeki your opponent is very, very powerful. Rocket Ride is a nice little extender. It also can attack directly, so it could be a turn or a game ender if you play it right. You have to decrease its attack by 1,000, so it only has 1,000 attack. But you know, combined with some of your other stuff, it could be a pretty good game ender. On top of that, you can tribute it and get 2 Prank Kids monsters back from the graveyard, which is pretty strong. So one of the ways I kind of think about this is, you know, I think the card is basically designed that you fusion summon Rocket Ride, decrease the attack by 1,000, battle phase attack, so battle phase attack, they lose 1,000 life points. Then you activate the second effect of Rocket Ride during main phase 2, and you get 2 Prank Kids back for follow up on the next play. Or then in main phase 2, you get 2 Prank Kids back. You can keep comboing off and go into something like Battle Butler, and then on your opponent's turn, you can board wipe them and things like that. So I believe that's why the card's designed that way. I think a lot of times it's used more of an instant fusion target, because you can instant fusion, then you can tribute it and get cards back from the graveyard. But that's what I like about this deck, though, is a lot of the effects of a lot of the cards are very versatile like that. And I believe that the Yeah, Weather Washer is pretty strong because if your Prankin monster attacks, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. And then during your opponent's turn, you can also quick effect and tribute the card and target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters with different names in the graveyard, special summon them. And they cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. So, you know, it's just a way to keep your turn going and then set your play up for the next turn. You can go into Weather Washer in main phase 2. Like I said, you can do Rocket Ride, hit 1,000, get 2 names back. Then you could, in main phase 2, summon Weather Washer on your opponent's turn, quick effect, stop them, and get essentially the same 2 Prank Kids back on board in defense position. They can't be destroyed by battle. And then you're going to have 2 Prank Kids on board that can not be destroyed by battle that you can use for your follow-up plays during your next turn, as well as preserving your life points. So Weather Washer can come handy in a pinch too. I don't think it's quite as popular as Rocket Ride or Battle Butler, and it's not necessarily part of like any of the combos, but it's super helpful to have in there. You definitely have to play these 3. So the other cards I play are kind of like tech options. We'll start with this one because you already know about it, is Anaconda. Also, I don't know what you're doing if you don't play Totally Awesome for, you know, the 2 Dropsies makes a Totally Awesome, and that's just super strong. And it's super easy to get out 2 Dropsies, honestly. I recently saw a list that's playing Zeus. Totally Awesome is your only Xyz monster, so I don't know how I feel about playing Zeus just to overlay on Totally Awesome. I think that's a little much, honestly, but I would rather use the extra deck space for something with more utility. But Zeus is also a hell of a card, so if you find yourself getting into it a lot, I have no problem with you playing that. And then the last 3 cards, Borrelsword. I want this to be an access code talker, but I don't have it because it's really expensive. I'm hoping it gets reprinted here this year, but if you have it, this should be access code. If you don't, Borrelsword's okay. Your OTK enabler is what you're looking for here, though. And then the last 2 cards are just going to be Nightmare Unicorn and Nightmare Phoenix. Now, like I said, I'd like to play another Meow Meow and maybe another Bow Wow Bark. And I think that Nightmare Phoenix, as well as Anaconda, take up those 2 spots. Now, if I were to change anything right now, just in the extra deck, I would take out Phoenix and put in another Meow Meow. If I had it. If I were to change something in the deck more significantly, you could take out the Anaconda Thunder Dragon package and put in a Pandemonium and another Bow Wow Bark on top of the extra Meow Meow, which I think is exactly the same as Pax build. But that being said, I like the Thunder Dragon fusion tech, and I think that Nightmare Phoenix is a fine addition. It's a nice interruption for your opponent, and honestly, most cases you're not going into the 3rd Meow Meow. So that being said, I really think that this deck does so well, and I think that realistically, if you're trying to play a top tier deck on a budget, this is going to be it. I think even with the hand traps, this deck comes out to like, it might come out to $250 because of evenly matched, but like I said, we play a 43 card deck, so you can't afford evenly matched. Just don't buy it. That being said, if you take out evenly matched, I think it's about a $200 deck. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a tier 1 deck. Honestly, I don't think this is going to get hit on the ban list either. It's a top tier deck that isn't going to get hit significantly. I wouldn't be surprised if Invoke Shaddoll, Dogmatica, one of those or some combination of those got hit, and I definitely think the Dragon Link's going to get hit in July.
but I would be surprised if any of the individual Print Kids cards get hit come July, especially because none of them by themselves are that broken, but players like Pack especially have found ways to manipulate these cards in such a way that they have very consistent boards and have very consistent outs to other top tier decks. So definitely a fun deck, awesome art, on a budget. Absolutely no reason to not pick it up. Definitely check it out. If you need any of these cards, check out my TCG Player affiliate link down below. Also, leave a like and subscribe to the page if you like the deck profile, and if you want to see more deck profiles as well as other Yu-Gi-Oh content and other TCG content in general. I appreciate all of you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.